All right, welcome to the introduction to question 3 for the AP Lit exam and the essay portions. We have looked at question 1 and 2, so I'm going to kind of go over some important details about this and what you can expect that would happen every time you encounter question 3, but also give you some advice on how to tackle it. And then in class today, I pretended like I was a student and I showed the class how I would have brainstormed, and I have some new strategies. Which is when you do question 3 or any of the questions, try to order by insight. Try to watch and pay attention to the 3+ parts of the prompt that are definitely a big feature of question 3. And then when you start reading the rest of our text in class, really start paying attention to the nitty-gritty details that you could use as evidence when it comes to the actual question 3. Because the biggest difference from question 1 and 2 to question 3 is you do not have direct access to your literature and you can't use direct quotes. So the first thing is, whenever I do question 3, there are some things that are always common. They want you to select a novel, play, or epic poem of your choice. It will focus on a theme. In this case, the theme is origins. They are going to want you to do a couple tasks in relationship to that theme. They're always going to want you to talk about how the theme, in this case origins, but how the theme contributes to the meaning of the work of the book, novel, or play as a whole. And then you are supposed to choose a piece of literature of literary merit. And that is kind of a big debate right now with the AP readers. But when it comes to literary merit, it needs to be something that is college appropriate or education appropriate, like it would be something that you read or experienced in school. So anything that we read in AP Lit definitely falls under this literary merit category. Anything from English 1 to English 4 would fall into this. But an example of something that's debatable is like Harry Potter, because Harry Potter it's not that it's contemporary, but it's definitely it's young adult lit if you look at the early Harry Potter books. And a lot of the problems is kids, sometimes people will pick films or they'll pick pieces like pop lit, like pop culture lit. And the problem is it doesn't read elevated. It reads juvenile. It reads a lot like the middle school character that is in the book, like Harry Potter when he's younger. So if you're going to do a piece of literature that's of questionable merit, you got to do it really well. But I will tell you that most kids who pick literature like that don't score higher than a 4. Maybe a 5, but most of the quality kind of undermines what they're trying to accomplish with the prompt. So they're going to give you a suggestion, and it's going to be a mixture of old and new literature. It's definitely going to have novels and plays and epic poems. This is a suggested list. You do not have to pick from here. So when you decide to start writing question 3, you're going to need to read the prompt, and you're going to need to annotate it. So this picture is a little small, so I'm going to try to make it a little bit bigger for you so you can kind of see what we did. I don't think it's going to let me. Nope. So when we did this, I picked through this, and I definitely went through the prompt. So select a novel, play, or epic poem that features a character whose origins are unusual or mysterious. Then write an essay in which you analyze how these origins shape the character and the character's relationships, and how the origins contribute to the meaning of the work as a whole. So something we talked about in class today, these are my 3 big ideas, which is or basically plan and write your essay by insight. Number 2 is watch for the 3 parts of the prompt, and then we'll talk about part number 3 in a minute. So when I did this, there are definitely 3 parts of this prompt, and that's classic AP. They want you to show multi-level thinking, because in college you have to multitask and you have to show different levels of thinking, and you have to synthesize or bring all these things together. So the first thing I underlined is they want me to look at the theme of origins, and they want me to talk about how it's unusual or mysterious. However, you don't have to use these 2 adjectives. I think you could, when I was reading a couple summers ago, you could offer your own definition of origins. Now, if you take what you have, a good character who has unusual origins, and unusual, it could be like maybe they have a weird birthing story. Like in Beloved, one of the characters, she's born in the middle of a boat, which is pretty unusual. But maybe you talk about they are unusual in their origins based on the people that they're surrounded by. Like Shylock, he has pretty unusual origins when you think about how he is in relationship to the Christian Venetian community that he lives in. The other thing is mysterious could mean lots of things. Mysterious could be maybe they don't know their origins. For instance, Hassan doesn't really know his true origins. He has what he perceives are his origins with Ali, but the reality is his relationship with Baba is pretty mysterious in what it really means in terms of origins. So you could do a couple of options with these, or you could kind of redefine origins. The only thing is, make sure when you do that, you establish what that redefinition is for your reader so they don't get confused. So I saw some kids in the past who talked about like their origins in terms of geography and how they were born in one place and moved to another, and that created some conflicts and things like that. So figure out your theme. In this case, it's origins. They're giving you a little bit of strategy here to use, and you can use these word choices as you start to brainstorm and obviously as you start to write. So that's the first thing they want you to do, is to figure out the origins, and they want you to analyze it in shape of the character. So that is number one. That is which of the prompts. So the first thing is you have to figure out the characterization in relationship to the theme. The second thing is then you have to figure out the relationships that the character has, relationship interactions that are depicted because of the origins. And so you're going to have to figure out how it shapes them. And then finally, you're going to talk about the meaning of the work as a whole, which basically, what does it mean for the overall book? So I decided to go with my absolute favorite, which was Gatsby. And the reason why I did it, it's not just because I'm obsessed with this book. It's because I know this book. I know a lot of specifics from the book. And I can do a lot of shout outs that are going to make me look smart and also are going to prove that I'm not just summarizing or worse, generalizing the plot. And I'm not just creating something boring in terms of my insight. So when you start planning this, I am asking you guys to stop planning with a claim. Because I think what's happening is right now you guys are planning with claims and you're getting too freaked out, and the claims are not, they're being forced and they should be more natural. So when you plan based on insight. So one of the first insights I have about The Great Gatsby is I do think he's mysterious, and I'm going to reference chapter 1 through 3, especially chapter 3, which is the party chapter. But I'm not just going to say he's mysterious because that's not doing anything, that's just stating an obvious fact. But my actual discussion, my analysis insight, Gatsby is mysterious, which makes him very attractive to the outside world, hence why everybody comes to his parties. So that's going to be my first characterization discussion in terms of the theme. The second thing is these two paragraphs kind of go together, but I think Gatsby's origins are mysterious because he had, I'm talking about this part right here. So Gatsby has mysterious origins, but they create broken and suspicious relationships. So he does have some conflict with Nick. There's the car scene, if you remember that, where Nick thinks he's lying, and he actually is lying. And then Tom, this creates a lot of problems because it makes an enemy of Tom, which obviously makes problems later on in the book. But then I'm going to argue, I'm pretty proud of this, but my new insight is Gatsby's not a mystery. He's actually just unusual. He's unusual because he is poor, and he's a poor boy that's trying to make it in a rich world, and that creates conflicts with Tom, it creates conflicts with the West and East Egg, and it does create conflicts with his character relationship with Daisy, because he equates love to money because he was poor. I have direct evidence, which is going to be the Daisy stuff, but also I'm going to talk about how he uses the word old sport, which is unusual, and then I'm also going to mention Meyer Wolfsheim, who is a very unusual character. The last thing, which is the meaning of the work as a whole, is ultimately origins equals your downfall. And I think that was Fitzgerald's big argument in the 1920s. So these ideas are all kind of circulating in my brain, and I'm just going to write. I'm going to write, and this probably will be a paragraph. These might become paragraphs, or maybe they'll merge together. But I'm going to see where these insights take me, and then when I finish the essay, I'm going to go back up to the introduction, and then I'm going to write my claim, because I think my claim will make more sense once I finish the idea. One student talked, this is a domino and a happy face, but they talked about basically set up your insights like little dominoes, and then what will happen is each of them will fall into place, and by the end you're going to be able to figure out what the big overall effect was of your kind of puzzle or your kind of insight. And lastly, now that you know that this is the prompt, you need to continue reading The Handmaid's Tale, pay attention to the details of the book, or go back to some of our old literature in your notes and think about what are some details from The Kite Runner, some standout scenes that you know would be important for analysis. So that is question 3. Like I said, figure out the theme and then work your way through the rest of the prompt. Organize by insight, and see where the claim goes at the end of the writing procedure. So that's an incredibly long video, I'm sorry, but that is introduction to question 3.